The river is gone. What was once a sweeping, unstoppable force of deep water has been reduced to a chain of stagnant, evaporating puddles. The dry season has extended into a historic drought. And in these shallow pools, absolute panic is setting in. The water is now just inches deep. Hundreds of fish, trapped by the receding waterline, are thrashing violently in the thick mud. They are exhausting the last of the oxygen, hopelessly exposed under a baking, relentless sun. It is a true biological buffet, an easy, effortless feast for any predator willing to take it. The heat waves rising off the baked clay distort the horizon. Fragile marabou storks, birds with hollow bones and zero armor, are marching freely through the shallows. They strike the dying catfish and swallow them whole. Scavengers are picking at the edges of the cracked earth, entirely unbothered by the shrinking perimeter. The ecosystem is experiencing a massive surplus of highly vulnerable prey. But the undisputed king of this river isn't eating. Resting directly in the center of the chaos is a Nile crocodile, 14 feet long, over 1,000 pounds of dense, prehistoric armor, an animal belonging to a lineage that survived the asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs. It has survived shifting continents, collapsing ecosystems, and global mass extinctions. And right now, surrounded by more easily accessible food than it has seen all year, it is starving to death. This is the paradox of the drought. Prey is literally bumping against its heavy scales. Dying fish are splashing directly against its jaws. Yet the crocodile remains perfectly still, a mud-cake statue baking in the oppressive heat. Why is the ultimate survivor failing to eat when the food is trapped right in front of it? Our instinct is to assume it's simply full. Or perhaps it's conserving energy, waiting for a larger, more satisfying meal, like a desperate antelope forced to drink from the shrinking puddle. But nature doesn't waste free calories, especially not when the dry season stretches into its third month. Look closely at the predator. The ridge of its spine is becoming dangerously prominent. It is losing mass by the day. The truth is much more alarming than a lack of appetite. The crocodile isn't choosing to ignore the fish. It is physically incapable of eating them. To understand why, we have to look past the animal itself and look at the environment it was engineered for. For millions of years, the crocodile's design has remained virtually unchanged. It is a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering, the perfect ambush machine. But evolutionary perfection comes with a hidden cost. When a species becomes perfectly adapted to one specific set of physical rules, it becomes entirely dependent on those rules. It loses the ability to operate outside of them. And the physical rules of this ecosystem have just changed. The deep, murky water that gave the crocodile its absolute dominance has vanished. And with the water gone, the illusion of the crocodile's invincibility shatters entirely. We look at the massive skull, the heavy muscles, and the terrifying rows of teeth, and we assume that the bite is the weapon. We assume those jaws are designed to chew, to slice, to tear through anything they catch. We view this animal as a self-contained biological tank. But we are wrong. The strongest bite force on the planet is currently useless. Because to a crocodile, the jaws don't actually process the meat. They only lock it in place. The jaws don't kill the prey. The river does. And the river is gone. Let's look closely at the machinery of a crocodile skull. It is built to do exactly one thing: slam shut. The muscles that close the jaw are terrifyingly massive, generating over 3,000 pounds of pressure per square inch. It is a biological steel trap. But look at the structure of the teeth. They aren't serrated like a shark's. They aren't designed to slice through muscle or sheer bone. They are thick, conical pegs, designed purely to grip, to hold on and never let go. And there is a deeper mechanical limitation hidden in that heavy skull. A crocodile cannot move its jaw side to side. It has zero lateral movement, which means, quite simply, it cannot chew. If a predator cannot chew and its teeth cannot slice, how does it consume an animal larger than its own throat? It outsources the work to the environment. In a healthy, flowing river, the crocodile relies on a behavior we call the death roll. We see footage of this violent spinning and assume it is a display of pure aggressive dominance, an angry predator destroying its prey. But it isn't aggression. It is a mandatory equation of physics. When a crocodile grabs a large fish or a heavy mammal, it locks its jaws tight. Then, it throws its entire body weight into a rapid, brutal spin. But the spin itself doesn't tear the meat. The water does. The deep water provides crucial resistance. It holds the prey's body in place with dense liquid pressure while the crocodile rotates. The intense friction of the water pushing back against the prey is what actually allows the crocodile to wrench off a piece of meat small enough to swallow whole. Without the density, the buoyancy, and the depth of the water, the math of the hunt completely falls apart. Now, look back at the cracked earth of the Drought. The puddle is only a few inches deep. The mud is heavy, stagnant, and thick. Imagine the crocodile lunging at one of the stranded catfish right in front of its nose. The jaws snap shut. The fish is caught. A flawless strike. But now, the predator must process the food. It attempts to initiate a roll. But the moment it twists its body, its wide, heavily armored back slams into the dense clay. There is no deep water to float the prey. There is no resistance to assist the tear. There is only the hard, unyielding ground. The crocodile thrashes awkwardly against the dirt, scraping its scales, wasting massive amounts of precious, irreplaceable energy. The bite only works if the environment finishes the job. Without the river, the crocodile is forced to just hold the thrashing fish in its mouth, unable to tear it, unable to swallow it, until eventually, completely exhausted, it simply lets the meal go. This is the terrifying reality of extreme biological specialization. Millions of years ago, the crocodile traded the ability to chew for the strongest bite force on Earth, relying entirely on the river to bridge the mechanical gap. It signed an evolutionary contract with the deep water. And now, the water has broken the contract. The apex predator isn't just hungry. It is completely mechanically broken. A biological submarine stranded in a puddle, its primary weapon rendered completely useless by a change in the weather. So, a new question emerges. If it cannot hunt here, and it is slowly starving in the mud, logic dictates it should just leave. Stand up, walk across the dry riverbed, and find a new pool. Find deeper water. It has 4 strong legs. It is fully capable of migrating over land. But for a 2-ton armored giant, the dry land isn't just a desert. It is an oven. The sun during a severe African drought is not just weather. It is a physical weight, a relentless, punishing force that dictates the boundaries of life and death. The ambient temperature hovers above 110 degrees. The mud is baking into hardened ceramic. Watch the crocodile as it makes a desperate attempt to leave. It lifts its massive 1,000-pound body off the ground. Its legs lock. It takes one heavy, dragging step forward, then another, but almost immediately it stops. The creature exhales heavily, its chest heaving. It collapses, sliding its belly back into the shallow, stagnant mud. It refuses to travel more than a few feet from the evaporating puddle. Why? Why choose slow starvation over a difficult hike to a new river system? The answer lies in the very feature that makes the crocodile so terrifying: its armor. Look at the jagged, heavily textured ridges running down its back. These are called scuds. They are thick, bony plates integrated directly into the skin. In the violent, highly competitive world of the river, this armor is the ultimate defense. It deflects the bites of rival crocodiles. It protects against the crushing jaws of territorial hippos. It makes the animal practically indestructible in a fight. But survival in a drought isn't about fighting. It is about thermoregulation. And a tank without a cooling system is nothing more than a metal tomb. Reptiles are ectothermic. They do not possess the biological machinery to automatically regulate their internal body temperature. They cannot sweat to cool off. They cannot pan efficiently enough to shed massive amounts of body heat. Their core temperature is entirely dictated by their environment. When a crocodile is in a deep, flowing river, it has complete control. If it gets too hot, it simply sinks to the dark, cool bottom. The water rapidly draws the heat out of its heavy body. But out here, exposed on the dry earth, that cooling mechanism is gone. Now, consider the physical toll of a forced march. Lifting a heavily armored, 1,000-pound body against gravity requires a massive expenditure of energy. Every muscle firing generates intense internal heat. At the same time, the dark, thick armor on its back acts like a solar panel. It relentlessly absorbs the brutal, unfiltered heat of the sun. If the crocodile attempts to march across the scorching plains, its core temperature will rapidly spike past its biological threshold. The heat cannot escape through the thick scuds. Its organs will begin to fail. It will literally cook itself from the inside out before it ever reaches the next river. The armor that protected it for millions of years has suddenly become a lethal thermal trap. To avoid starving, the crocodile must walk. But to walk is a guaranteed death sentence by heat stroke. It is caught in a fatal biological paradox. So, it makes the only choice it can. It slides back into the shrinking, oxygen-depleted mud. The water is now less than a foot deep, and it is almost as hot as the air. But it provides just enough moisture to keep the crocodile's core temperature below the fatal limit. This puddle is no longer a hunting ground. It is no longer a territory to be defended. It is a prison, a desperately shrinking cell locking the predator in place. The walls are closing in. The water evaporates by the hour. And the crocodile is not alone in its cell. As the river fragments into isolated pools, every surviving creature in the area is forced into the exact same shrinking spaces. The neighborhood is getting terrifyingly crowded. And when the water disappears, the ancient rules of respect disappear with it. The king of the river is completely immobilized by the heat, unable to strike, unable to defend itself, and the other animals are starting to notice. The perimeter of the mud puddle shrinks by another foot. What was once a vast, open river is now a claustrophobic arena, and the crocodile is trapped in the center of it. In a balanced ecosystem, fear maintains order, Animals know their place. They understand the invisible boundaries drawn by the presence of an apex predator. But extreme drought erases those boundaries. When survival comes down to the last few inches of wet mud, fear is replaced by absolute desperation. Look at the far edge of the pool. A pod of hippos has been forced into the exact same shallow water. Hippos are massive, highly territorial, and naturally aggressive. Normally, crocodiles and hippos maintain a tense, respectful distance in the deep river. But there's no distance left to maintain. The largest male hippo, weighing nearly 4,000 pounds, shifts his weight. He wants the deepest section of the mud to cool his thick skin. The problem? The crocodile is currently occupying it. In any other season, the crocodile would stand its ground. It would open its jaws, display its terrifying teeth, and issue a deep, rumbling warning. But today, there is no threat display. There is no warning. The crocodile is simply too overheated, too exhausted, and too mechanically broken to fight. The hippo pushes forward. He aggressively shoves his massive blunt snout directly into the crocodile's armored side. It is a blatant, humiliating act of displacement, and the apex predator does nothing. It takes the hit. It weakly slides a few feet away, surrendering the prime real estate, dragging its heavy belly through the abrasive dirt. It is a stunning reversal of power. The ultimate ambush killer is being openly bullied, forced to the hottest, driest edge of the remaining water. And the humiliation doesn't stop with the heavyweights. Watch the shoreline. A marabou stork, a bird that looks like a fragile collection of twigs and feathers, is hunting for frogs. It walks directly past the crocodile's head. It is merely inches away from the deadliest jaws in Africa. In a flowing river, that bird would vanish in a violent splash before it even registered the danger. But here, the stork doesn't even look down. It casually steps over the crocodile's tail. The bird instinctively knows what we are just now realizing. The crocodile is completely neutralized. It cannot lunge because the mud is too thick. It cannot snap because the heat has drained its explosive energy. It is an empty threat, a ghost of a predator. This is the brutal reality of a changing ecosystem. The predator didn't lose its strength. It lost its relevance. When the environment shifts, the hierarchy collapses immediately. The animals that dominate are no longer the ones with the thickest armor or the sharpest teeth. The new rulers are the ones that can adapt to the current conditions. The fragile birds, the aggressive mammals. They are thriving in the shallow chaos, while the ancient dinosaur slowly bakes in the sun. But the crocodile's ordeal is about to get worse. Because over the next 48 hours, the relentless sun finishes its work. The remaining moisture in the puddle evaporates completely. The mud turns into hardened, cracked clay. There is no water left to fight over. There is no moisture left to cool the heavy armor. The prison has officially run dry. The crocodile is now stranded on solid earth, miles from the nearest river, surrounded by competitors and completely out of options. It cannot fight. It cannot run. It cannot eat. When fighting and fleeing are both physically impossible, how does an animal built for the age of dinosaurs survive? It pulls the ultimate biological emergency brake. The mud is hardening fast. It is no longer fluid. It is becoming a concrete shell. If the crocodile remains on the surface, the sun will finish it in a matter of hours. It has no water to cool it, no energy to walk, no leverage to fight. But this animal did not survive the extinction of the dinosaurs by giving up when the environment turned hostile. When the active world becomes unsurvivable, the crocodile simply stops participating in it. Watch closely as it shifts its remaining weight. It doesn't move forward toward the horizon. It moves straight down. Using its heavy, blunt claws and the sheer density of its armored snout, it begins to excavate the drying bank. It pushes deep into the earth, carving out a tight, narrow trench. It is a slow, exhausting, and deliberate process. The crocodile is intentionally burying itself alive. It wriggles its massive body backward into the excavated groove. The wet, heavy clay collapses around its flanks. It packs the dirt tightly against its own skin. It buries its tail. It buries its legs. Finally, it lowers its heavy skull until only its nostrils remain exposed to the dry air. As the relentless sun beats down over the next 24 hours, the mud bakes into a hardened, solid cast. The crocodile is now entirely entombed. It cannot move. It cannot see. It is completely paralyzed by the earth. To the outside observer, it looks like a desperate, fatal mistake. A predator trapping itself in a grave. But this is not a death. It is a highly calculated biological override. Deep inside the darkness of the hardened clay, an ancient mechanism is activating. A survival strategy forged millions of years ago, designed specifically for moments when the planet becomes unlivable. It is a process known as estivation. Estivation is the summer equivalent of hibernation. But instead of sleeping to survive the cold, the crocodile is shutting down its entire biological system to survive the heat and the drought. Inside the tomb, the transformation is staggering. The crocodile's heart rate begins to plummet. In a flowing river, during a hunt, that heart might beat 40 times a minute. Now it drops to 10, then 5, until it is barely beating 2 or 3 times a minute. Its breathing slows to a near imperceptible rhythm, taking just one shallow breath every few hours. Its digestive system completely shuts down. Its brain activity drops to the absolute minimum required to sustain life. It is no longer a thinking, hunting predator. It has reduced itself to a biological pilot light, burning just enough energy to keep the spark of life from going out. And remember the heavy, bony armor? The thick skuts that acted as a lethal thermal trap under the open sun? Inside the dark, tight confines of the mud tomb, that armor suddenly serves a completely different, life-saving purpose. The dense plates lock together, creating an impenetrable biological seal. They trap the tiny, microscopic amounts of moisture remaining inside the crocodile's body, preventing the dry earth from sucking the water out of its internal organs. The armor isn't cooking it anymore. It is preserving it. This is how you survive an asteroid. This is how you survive shifting continents and global climate collapse. When the sky fills with ash or the rivers boil away, you don't try to outrun the apocalypse. You simply turn off. You seal yourself in the earth. You stop the clock, and you wait for the world to change back. The crocodile has successfully paused its own existence. It is a masterclass in extreme endurance. But a pause system is a highly vulnerable system. The predator has surrendered all of its agency to the environment. It is now entirely at the mercy of the weather. If the rains return in a few weeks, the mud will soften, the heart will speed up, and the crocodile will resurrect itself, ready to hunt. But if the drought lasts for another 6 months, the pilot light will eventually burn out, and the temporary tomb will become permanent. The apex predator is no longer an active participant in the ecosystem. It has faded into the background, a silent, motionless feature of the landscape. But while the giant sleeps, the world above its head does not stop. The extreme pressure of the drought continues to push the remaining animals to their absolute limits. And out here, in the harsh reality of the changing wild, survival rarely rewards those who simply wait. The sun beats down on a cracked, empty landscape. The mighty river is now just a memory, permanently baked into the clay. Beneath the surface, the crocodile waits in perfect silence. A 2-ton king, completely entombed in its own kingdom. But look closely at the dry earth directly above the tomb. Life has not stopped. It has simply bypassed the sleeping giant. At the edges of what used to be the puddle, scavengers are thriving. They are picking the bones of the fish the crocodile could not eat. Flocks of entirely unarmored birds take to the sky. They easily cross miles of scorched earth to find new water sources. Even the lungfish, a strange, ancient creature with no armor and no terrifying bite, is surviving. It wrapped itself in a thin cocoon of mucus and simply waited, expending a fraction of the energy of the massive reptile. These animals survived the drought because they were light. They survived because they were mobile. They were not weighed down by the burden of their own strength. The crocodile is alive. But we must step back and ask a crucial question. Is this extreme biological pause a victory? Or is it a prison? Evolution always demands a ruthless trade-off. Every biological advantage comes with a hidden, inevitable cost. For the crocodile, millions of years of evolution perfected the ultimate physical defense and the most devastating bite force on the planet. It became a completely indestructible machine, but only under a very specific set of physical rules. When the rules of the ecosystem rapidly changed, the very traits that made it dominant became its exact undoing. The heavy armor prevented it from walking to safety. The specialized jaws prevented it from processing the food right in front of it. The armor didn't save the crocodile from the drought. It forced the crocodile to surrender to it. This was never really just about a reptile in the mud. It is a universal law of power. We see the exact same pattern repeated endlessly in the human world. Think of massive, deeply entrenched corporate empires, industry giants that dominate their markets for decades. They build heavy, impenetrable armor to crush their competition. They become bloated, rigid, and entirely specialized to one specific economic climate. But when a rapid disruption hits, when the market suddenly and violently changes its rules, these massive giants cannot pivot. They are too heavy to adapt. So, just like the crocodile, they freeze. They shut down their systems, dig in, and simply hope the old environment returns. But the old environment rarely returns. The tragedy of the crocodile is the tragedy of overspecialization. True resilience in a shifting world isn't about being indestructible. It isn't about having the thickest skin or the strongest bite. It is about being fundamentally adaptable. It is about the ability to move when the water disappears. Right now, the apex predator is nothing more than a fossil waiting for rain. A terrifying, ancient monster entirely humbled by a change in the weather. It survives, yes, but only by completely giving up its power. The crocodile chose armor, and it paid the ultimate price of immobility. But what happens to the creatures that took the exact opposite path? The animals that explicitly refused to build heavy defenses? The ones that knew they could never win a physical fight, so they completely re-engineer their bodies to flee? In the next chapter, we leave the armored giants behind. We look at the species that embrace the chaos of a rapidly changing world. The animals that didn't build walls. They built escapes. The armored giant chose to stand still. But in a world that is rapidly evaporating, standing still is a luxury most species cannot afford. For the rest of the ecosystem, survival requires constant, agonizing motion. But mobility is not a perfect solution. It is a massive biological gamble. When you trade armor for speed, you trade invincibility for extreme vulnerability. Every pound of defense you shed to run faster is a pound protection you lose when the predators arrive. Next time on Survival Brand, we follow the nomads, the species that refuse to bury themselves in the mud, choosing instead to cross hundreds of miles of hostile, baking territory. They are burning through massive energy reserves just to find the next shrinking puddle. They are not armored. They are not indestructible. And out on the open, scorching plains, speed will only save you if you know exactly where you are running.